Good day, Kendall County. This is John Tipton with my partner Robert Sines, and we are the Texas Examiner. We are excited to be with you today to bring you a very exciting guest who has some differing views and opinions on what we've discussed in one of our past episodes with Commissioner Chad Carpenter and with
City Councilman Ty Wollison.
City Councilman Ty Wollison.
Pretty popular show.
Absolutely. It's done very well. And so we wanted to bring you, the viewers and listeners, a different perspective from a citizen's point of view on what ETJ and mobility mean to the citizens from their perspective.
Yes,
Robert?
yeah, absolutely, John. And this guest today, ladies and gentlemen, has a broad spectrum of perspective. One is he's been a longtime resident of the area. He's been a county commissioner in Kendall County. He's also been a director for planning and development for TxDOT. So definitely has the credentials and experience. And so we're proud to introduce and welcome to our studios today, Mr. John Kight.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kite, for making the time. Tell us a little bit about John Kite, if you can summarize that. You've had a very prestigious career and background, but if you could tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, and again, most of my experience has been in public service.
Yes, sir.
I was 35 years with the TxDOT, so for about almost 20 years sat on the regional water planning group with the Water Development Board. I was chairman of the board of the Hill Country Mental Health and Development Disability for about 16 or 17 years. So I've been doing a lot of things.
It's interesting. You mentioned you were on that board of mental health. What years were those, more or less?
From 1997 till 2000.
And I ask you that for a reason. I ask him, John, because mental health is the buzzword these days, and back in that time, probably it wasn't. And I think you were a pioneer ahead of your time because mental health affects everything. It affects people in the workplace and home, jails.
Yes.
So it's interesting that you were doing that back when we probably weren't funding it as well.
No.
Tell us a little bit about that.
In fact, I had a hard time getting Kendall County to actually represent and give us a facility to operate in. And when Galen Schroeder was judge, he helped me a lot. And we have a facility now in Bernie for that. But I tell you what, working with people with developmental disabilities particularly, you'll find that they may have developmental disability, yes, but there's one point in their brain, they're brilliant. Some of them I've known, I took some of them camping and blew up the air mattress. Well, they kept blowing it up. It blew up, exploded. Well, they said, you didn't tell me to stop blowing. Well, no.
They followed instructions.
They did exactly what they were told.
But on the other hand, they were like a walking dictionary on sports.
Interesting.
Or stuff like that. And I've known several of them like that. So, it's wonderful to help them.
Yes. Well, thank you for your service in that area as well. Let's talk about county commissioner.
Before we get to that, let me, just for our viewers' edification, do you have any professional designations in your education to add to your experience?
Yeah, I have a college degree in civil engineering.
Okay.
So I've got a PE, professional engineering license. I also had a surveying license. So
very relevant to this topic.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Very relevant.
I just assumed that all of us would know, but that definitely is. He's got the credentials, right?
Absolutely.
But let's talk about when you were county commissioner. I'm intrigued by that. What was the world like then?
One of the things that I wanted to do was create a preventive maintenance program. Prior to that, they really didn't do a good job of keeping the roads up. And they went to the point where you didn't just go out and maintain them, you had to rebuild them. Well, that's ridiculous. So with a preventive maintenance program, you do that and schedule every 5 to 7 years, resurfacing them, stuff like that. And the other thing is to widen the roadway a little bit to where you can have a driving lane and then a shoulder, striped off, just a narrow shoulder, a couple of feet. And what that does is, if you'll look around, most of the damage to the roadways, they've run the edges down.
Yes.
It's people with their heavy trailers going by that keep
yeah.
making those
So,
potholes.
I feel attacked.
If you can,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
if you can mark off a couple of feet,
Yes.
they won't drive there. Well, then your maintenance goes way down. So little bitty things like that help preserve the funds of the county. You're not wasting your money figuring out stuff that you could have provided that wouldn't cause that kind of problems.
it's a cost benefit analysis, or it's a function of that, and then opportunity costs if you
Very
don't.
much so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And what were other issues when you were county commissioner? Well, first of all, what years were you county commissioner?
From
Approximately.
97 to 2004, I think it
Okay,
was.
not too long ago.
Not too long ago.
What are some of the accomplishments you were most proud of when you were county commissioner? And how long were you county
Wait a minute,
commissioner?
you said it wasn't too long ago. You realize it was almost 20 years, right?
That's not too long ago. Well, honestly, it's not too long ago when it comes to infrastructure.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
and the the overall growth of a community. I think I was here I got here 23 years ago.
Right.
And it seems like just yesterday.
Oh, man.
But anyway, what were some of your accomplishments you were most proud of?
Working with developers. The one of them was Ranger Creek Road, when at the 13 miles out was a subdivision.
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't much of a road out there. The developer built the road in the subdivision, but from the highway, I-10 to there, the road was in bad shape.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked the developer into providing $1 million.
$1 million.
And so I went out and personally met with all the property owners and got the right of way. And then we built the road. And that's where the new subdivision out there that's by the lake, there's so much commotion about polluting the lake.
Right.
Shoreline Park.
Did you mentioned you went and spoke to the residents at that time. Did you get any pushback from the people that own the property there about this growth that was coming?
Well, it's just like everything. In fact, a lot of the group that I talk about, they claim that when a road goes, it devalues their property and nobody wants it and all that. No, everybody realized that we needed to expand it and have a better road. And in my experience with 35 years of the highway, I can tell you that not only do people support it, like particularly 211, State Highway 211, they donated, a lot of them donated the right of way because they realized that if they had a highway, they could develop. Now, the group does not want development up here.
Well, you say the group. What do you mean by the group?
That's about a dozen people that basically live in the county. A couple of them live in the ETJ, but they don't want any development in the county.
Okay.
And they feel like if they can control the city from having a thoroughfare plan, a future thoroughfare plan, that they can stop. Because without a mobility infrastructure, you can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And did you find most of the folks that you were dealing with? First of all, we should have asked you. What precinct did you represent?
One.
One. Okay. And so the work that you did back from 2007 through 2004
to 2004.
Okay.
97 to
97 to 2004. The work that you did, was it primarily with the residents and constituents of Precinct 1?
Precinct 1.
Okay.
Although a lot of the stuff we did applied to all the precincts.
Right. That's kind of why I
Precinct
asked
1
that.
is the one that's right now contested.
Yes, it is.
Where we have Commissioner Christina Bergman, and she's being contested by Miss McCall.
Yes.
In Precinct 1, right.
So, yeah, it was mostly in Precinct 1, although we looked at the whole county, which is what the commissioners do. It's just like people, we got a primary election coming up for the president. Well, people that are, I get all kind of email about sending money to them. But someone in Oklahoma or Colorado, anywhere, they're voting for senators, which their votes are important to us in Texas. and vice versa. So again, the county commissioners, they look at the whole county, the welfare and the health of the whole county.
Well, and I think a lot of our listeners and viewers may not be aware that actually maintaining the county roads specifically, you're mandated by Constitution as a commissioner to take care of those roads. So
Yeah, and in the legislation that's out there, it tells you the different class of roadways,
Right.
how big they are, what the right of way it is, and stuff like that.
So it seems like roads have been your life, because did you go to the to TxDOT after being a commissioner? Or was that before?
Oh, I went to TxDOT. Yeah, when they come up with this gateway study, I went to them and asked them, "What in the world are you doing?" Because I don't know if you've seen the original plan. It had lines all over.
The original gateway study for
Yeah.
Kendall County?
I asked them, "Why?" Well, just to get comments. I said, "Well, you got the comments, all right. They're not going to trust you now."
Is that so? That's what originally, I guess, stirred up the community. And
Yeah.
would you say that? But isn't that fair though? If
Sure.
if I see lines coming through my property, even though they're 20, 30 years from now,
Yeah.
that's going to alarm me, right?
Well, and that's part of the problem, and that's part of the misinformation
Okay.
is that if that line goes across your property, they're going to take it.
Is that true?
No.
Okay. Well, then why put the line through my property?
Okay, that is for future planning of a mobility infrastructure to
Okay.
get around. So what I think they realize it, but they're just trying to stir the public up. But if there's a line on your property, so what? If you don't ever develop your property,
It doesn't
nothing's gonna
apply.
happen. Nothing. Now, if you develop it or you sell it to a developer to develop, then you have to comply. And if it goes across your property, it's not a specific alignment, it's a generalized alignment that you can adjust for your development purposes.
You could, so if 20 years from now, 30 years from now, I'm not here, the line goes, it shows in the plan through my property, my kids inherit the property, and they decide to sell it for 10 times the value, and there's a line there. They have some say so in negotiating this with TxDOT.
Now it takes out with the city.
With the city, okay. So the city can't just come in and say, well, now that you're selling it, we're going to run a road through here. How does that work?
No. The Thoroughfare plan, they developed the Thoroughfare plan, which they've done. And what the problem is now is prior to this, the city had an ETJ, which is in our case 1 mile out.
Right.
Okay, they control the ETJ, their rules, their Unified Development Plan. Okay, they had a series of thoroughfares look into the future that if it's ever developed, we need this kind of a infrastructure,
Right.
transportation infrastructure. Okay, now if it goes to your property, so what? Now, if you decide you want to develop or you sell it to somebody that wants to develop, then they have to honor the thoroughfare.
Gotcha.
Beginning and end points, you need to pretty much hold. But in between, on your property, you can adjust the alignment
I see.
to benefit.
And
what
if
you're
my
doing.
kids decide they don't want to sell, and there's the county or the city, can they claim eminent domain because we want to run a road through your?
They
through
could,
the-
but the city's never done that.
Okay.
It's never, and they don't.
It's not very
really
popular.
plan on it.
Okay.
now. So, that's one of the things, the misinformation, they keep saying that they're going to take your land and you're going to have to build the road. No. The developer is going to have to build the road.
Gotcha.
And then as each development occurs, then you have a continuous road.
Let me ask you a question, a basic question, Mr. Kite, just for our viewers. These mobility plans or thoroughfare plans, they're not just here in Kendall County. I'm assuming they plan this in land passes or San Antonio. So there's lines running through some people's property that they may or may not know of for the future in other places?
I don't know that they may or may not know it. If they look around, they'll find out pretty quick.
That there's plans for the future, but they're just plans. Is that correct?
They're just plans.
Okay.
And I worked in San Antonio, of course, for a long time. They've got thoroughfare plans.
Right.
And the Wurzbach Parkway, that come up years ago in San Antonio with the city council. There was 10 council people. Well, TxDOT and the federal funds would come through TxDOT to the cities, and the city would take like $10 million. They'd give each council person $1 million for their council district. Well, they just blew it off on the sidewalk. They never did work up a unified plan to look at traffic. So TxDOT said, and we talked about it, well, what if this money we give them every 2 years, we said, you need to put all of it together and put it in one project and do a project.
Right.
And then next year, the next councilman has it and so on. So what we said was between Loop 410 and Loop 1604, it's a big area. So if you're in there, you're either going to have to go to 1604 or to 410 to go east or west. Why can't we have a road in between, which is what turned out to be Wurzbach Parkway?
You were involved in that?
Well, yeah, it was turned over to me to develop and design. And I told TxDOT before I started, I said, I'd like to do basically a super street that will be control of access. There will be no driveways on it. And it'll be grade separated at all the major streets,
Right.
which is what we did.
Yeah. You've been on Wurzbach Parkway?
Well, it's a flyby. I mean,
It's great.
It is. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't put a toll on
They,
it.
they probably tried.
Yeah, they probably tried, yeah.
So, but anyhow, that's the theory I was working on, and that's what we did. So you've got a street that carries a lot of traffic now, but now you have 410, Wurzbach Parkway, and 1604. All of them are loaded. So, you know, and I realized that the group up here, they don't want that. They don't want growth is what they don't want. And they figure that by controlling that you can't have a transportation infrastructure, you can stop it.
You keep referring to a group. Is this a political group, or is this a group of citizens?
It's the ones that in the recent transportation study we did, they were always fussing about, they wanted to have actually as part of the study, they wanted to have policies in there that said the city cannot have eminent domain. Well, the Constitution in Amendment number 5 says that for public benefit, now not just anybody, but public benefit, you can have eminent domain, but you have got to compensate the people for the value of their land. You can't just take it,
Gotcha.
which is what they're saying in a lot of cases. So they're trying to stop or remove the city's ability to do anything to develop.
Is this just in a certain part of Bernie? Is this in Precinct 1 or Precinct 2?
They want, well, that's in the new interlocal agreement. What I was fussing about was item 2.1, which basically said that even though now the county is going to be, their rules are going to be enforced in the ETJ, except they added, they don't want the thoroughfare plan to be in there that can be implemented.
So that's been taken out.
Well, no, that's what they want to take out.
Oh.
They want to control that the city cannot expand. The city's going to expand into the ETJ. Naturally, I mean, that's where you expand.
So if
So
I'm
they didn't want them to have the ability to put a transportation plan in place in the ETJ where development was going to occur.
So I live out in the country. I'm going to play devil's advocate here with you a little bit, and I don't want more growth out in my way, but I realize I can't stop it by myself. But who do I talk to keep that from happening? Is it the county commissioners? Is it the city?
Well,
I guess I can only talk to the county commissioners because I don't vote in the city.
that was part of this problem for a long time. The people in the county that happened to be in the ETJ, all of a sudden they were under city rules and they had no voice in electing the city people.
Correct.
No
I can
representation.
understand
That was discussed. Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Right.
But recent legislation says that the property owners can opt out of the ETJ. So what the county has done is they opted out of the entire ETJ,
Okay.
which is great. But the city still had their thoroughfare plan in there.
Right.
And they said, take it out. Well, what you're doing is you're taking out the ability of the city to plan for the future.
So that's not very popular with the city then.
No.
So, all right, so you mentioned that there's resistance from a group in the community
County residents
of residents that don't.
They're not even involved with the city.
Right, they don't want any mobility plan, any thorough plan coming out of the city. So, what if they're successful, and what does that look like? Does that to be successful for them to stop this growth? They'd have to get all the county commissioners and judge to vote against this. Is that correct?
They'd have to. Well, what they would have to do is get all the commissioners to vote for leaving the part in there that removes the city ability to have a thoroughfare plan in the ETJ.
And that's their goal at this point.
Goal.
And how do you keep your finger on the pulse with the current administration, the county commissioners and county judge? Do you, in your opinion, without putting you on the spot and mentioning names, but do you feel that the county commissioners are leaning in that direction, that they don't want this?
Two of them are.
Two don't want this?
The two that did the agreement, the interlocal agreement, they rewrote it. They put that in there, and when I wrote letters to the commissioners. You need to have a plan, a coordinated plan for growth.
And who are those two county commissioners?
Well, one of them is Commissioner Donna, not Donna, but Andrea
Wizian?
okay. And the other is Chad Carpenter.
Okay, they don't want this thoroughfare.
They're the ones that authored this.
Okay.
So
is it safe to assume the others do want it, or you don't know how they're?
Well, no, two of them don't want that, and I don't know where the judge stands. But if we get a person elected that says we don't want the loop, there's no loop proposed right now.
Okay.
When the city and the county asked TxDOT to do the study, which turned out to be the Gateway study, and they did it, and they come back and rejected it. Mm-hmm. Well, part of their rejection, they put in there that they remove all the alignments from what they call, I want to say the internet. In other words, there's no more alignments. Now, yeah, you can still go back and look it up and see them, but those have been killed. They're dead, but they won't let it die. They keep bringing up Gateway, that the city is secretly working on the Gateway. They want it.
And that's not true?
That's not true.
It's not the impression that Councilman Wollison gave us the other day as well.
Right. He said that wasn't accurate.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, it sounds like there's a lot of scare tactics, misinformation. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what's going on.
Okay.
But it's only like a dozen people. They're stirring up misinformation.
A dozen people is what
It's about
is controlling this?
I can name them, but I won't name them here.
Sure.
But it's about a dozen people. And a lot of them don't even live in the city limits or in the ETJ.
And you won't name them because they're not elected officials, they're citizens. Is that why? Okay.
Well, the only two elected officials are the two commissioners that authored this thing.
Okay, fair enough. So right now it sounds to me, in your opinion, that we have two county commissioners that are against any growth. And we have two that are okay with it or understand that the growth
they understand the need to plan ahead.
Okay.
Growth is going to happen.
Right. And then we have a county judge that you're not sure where he stands, so that would be the deciding vote.
Yeah.
We do have an election coming up, though,
Yes,
with Precinct 1.
Correct.
Any idea how Miss McCall would be the other one? If she is elected, would she be, do you know if she's for growth or?
She's been supported big time by the group.
Okay.
Financially, big time.
Okay.
So that tells you what her.
Possibly, but then that would mean if she got elected, then it sounds to me then you'd have three commissioners that could stop this. And when we say stop, is it in fairness? Can they really stop this?
Well, okay, they're submitting this to the city.
Right.
Now, me personally, I wouldn't think the city is going to approve an interlocal agreement that removes their ability to plan for the future.
Okay, so there's got to be some compromise there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So, I would think right now the way it's being presented, I can't answer for them, but I would assume that it's dead on arrival.
I'm interested in a comment that you made reference the candidates currently running for Precinct 1, and you mentioned that they're being financially supported by the group. Robert and I have looked at and examined the campaign finance reports, and
It was a hot issue recently on social media because
it was
back and forth. There was
well, and we had more contention, obviously, with the House District 19 race.
Right.
We're talking, hundreds of thousands of dollars versus less than $10,000 for our county commissioner race. And there are names in there, but they're not large. They're not large, super large sums.
3,000 or so.
3,000, one of them's 8,000, and the others are 250, 500.
But there weren't a lot of people either. I think under Commissioner McCall's, there was maybe 5 or 6 people.
Right.
And then under Commissioner Berg was the same.
Right.
Or maybe 7 and 8 on each side.
And some of that money was coming from outside of the county.
Yeah, well, the donators are part of the group.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So it gives you, you realize where they're going with this.
And that's kind of what I was getting at, is to get to the root. What is the incentive? Why would somebody who doesn't live within the ETJ or within the city limits of Bernie, why would they be motivated to support something that they really have it doesn't apply to them? What's the impetus
to stop
for
growth?
They fantasized 50 years ago. It'll never happen. True, when we moved up here over 50 years ago, the town was less than 5,000. I mean,
22 years ago, I liked the way it was,
they
but
had one blinking light in town.
right. I had one blinking light down the road here, and I can understand both sides of the equation.
too.
Yeah, I don't. But I'm a hypocrite because I don't want growth, but yet I want an HEB next to me, and I want want the convenience of a medical clinic.
Right.
The other thing is, okay, again, they don't want growth.
Okay.
They don't want it. And some of the group thinks like we came through the intersection of Herf Road, Esser Road, and 46. As far as you could see, it was 8 o'clock this morning. As far as you could see, it was backed up.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, some of their comments are expand the road. Well, that sounds good, but when development has already developed up to the right of way,
Yes.
it becomes
You have restaurants all along that side there.
not cost effective.
Well, and it also seems to me that that's kind of misguided and misplaced opinion about how the county or the city should
Yeah.
improve that. Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a large portion of these folks that you're referring to as the group are retired or semi-retired. They're not commuting back and forth to San Antonio or to New Braunfels, having to use these thoroughfares.
Or sending kids to school.
Or sending kids to school, which is where, our moms and our dads in the county spend about an hour of their day, twice a day.
Sometimes I take my grandkids to school because my son or daughter can, and boy, that is a nightmare. And I don't do it that often.
Well,
but it's a nightmare going through that
one
traffic
of the
there.
groups in one of the transportation meetings, and I think I mentioned that we need to do something to improve the intersections. Let's back up. There's ways to do things. If it's just a running roadway, it's called level of service. Well, that's not the problem. Normally, the roadway will carry lots of traffic. It's intersections. When you have to stop and wait 30 minutes at the corner of Herf Road and 46
Yes, sir.
to make a right turn because it's backed up all the way to Old San Antonio. People don't want that. Now, some of the members of the Transportation Committee didn't feel it was unreasonable to wait 30 minutes at an intersection. Well, if you're trying to get your kids to school or you're trying to get to work or whatever, that is unreasonable.
And who are some of these members of the Transportation Committee?
They're part of the group.
Oh, so they're private citizens. It's not
They're private citizens.
Okay, I was asking so I could invite them on the show, and they could give us their.
Have their opinion.
Have their
I think
opinion.
that's
And we'll do
great
that.
idea.
You can do that.
No, that's fine.
But that's some of the problems. And like I say, they make it one deal, or we could expand existing. Not really. It's pretty much expanded out where it's going economically.
Because if you expand, let's take that example. If you expand there on Herf and River
Well, I'd
Road.
say
River Road. If you expand that, well, you have the water on one side, which
You don't
you
expand
can't do that, and you have businesses on the other side. But if we just want 50 feet or 20 feet, can't we just take that from the businesses? What would that do to the businesses if we did that?
Well, what happens is some businesses are on a road that the business is set back about 50 feet.
Right.
That's their parking. You've taken their parking, or along River Road, a lot of the businesses are up close enough, we're going to actually take the business.
Yeah.
So when you do that, even though you're going to just get 50 feet, by the damages, you've damaged the entire property to the point where, in effect, you've bought the entire property, although you only get 50 feet.
We'd have a lot of businesses up in arms, right? I wonder if they even realize that those are suggestions.
Crazy thought, and I'm going to show my ignorance when I ask this question, but it seems to me a roundabout type situation could have solved some of this before it became an issue.
Are you saying the bad word, the loop?
No, roundabouts.
Oh, okay,
No,
okay,
roundabout's something different.
Okay.
Okay, no, that's something we brought up and talked about, and I've talked about it. That's good. But when you get a roundabout, you can't just put one roundabout in between traffic lights. Right now, I'm working with the city on Cascade Caverns Road.
Mm-hmm.
They have a proposed roundabout at Cascade Caverns in Old San Antonio. That's great. In fact, if you'll go and look at Plant Street in Bernie, on the south of 46 on Blanco Bandera Road, there is a roundabout almost exactly the size of the one they're proposing at Old San Antonio and Cascade Caverns. Okay, that's great. But then you get to figuring 600 feet away is Scenic Loop and Cascade Caverns signal light doing peak traffic. If your signals stop you for a couple of minutes, it backs the traffic all the way up into the roundabout.
So you just cut people. It reminds me of the movie European Vacation.
Yes.
Look, kids, Big Ben Parliament.
Yes. Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
Yes.
You've destroyed the use or the reason for the roundabout. So
Gotcha.
you need
It's
to
too
put
close.
a roundabout there.
Right.
And when you have roundabouts, you've got to have a roundabout corridor. Each roundabout or each intersection has got a roundabout to where you have free flow traffic. If you've got to stop at a signal and block the roundabouts, what have you accomplished?
Now let me ask an ignorant question. I got to ask this. So what about, I see in San Antonio, like 35 going into downtown, you have an upper road. Can that be done in that area between, let's say, Ammon Road to maybe the other side of Bernie? Can we have like a
flyover?
A flyover.
If you got enough money, you can do anything.
There you go. That's what my dad said. If you got enough money or time, you can do anything. So how much money would that cost, more or less, to do that? In your professional opinion?
Just going from 46 to 10
Yes, sir.
was $100 million.
$100 million.
So just elevate. That's not anything
Right.
on the ground.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's
I
right. Let's try
love
again.
that you have a flip phone, by the way.
That's awesome,
It
right?
is
Because you don't have to worry about all these other social media and text and other junk coming in. So it's just phone calls.
That's it.
So $100 million, Mr. Kite, just more or less to build it. And the disruption would be incredible, I guess, right? For years.
Old number 9.
Oh, no. Yeah, we talked about
We
that on the
did.
show the other day.
And
And
I
I think
have-
that's a non-starter, right? Because there's businesses there already.
Yes and no.
Well, he's going to stir the pot.
I looked at it when we first started thinking about all this stuff.
Right.
Okay, if you would build it at grade, all you're doing is you're building a way to move traffic. But you also have all the intersections you're going to have to fool around with.
Oh,
Now, that doesn't mean you couldn't grade separate them and it worked. But just like on the downtown Y, when I first took over, it was $352 million. Now it's over $1 billion. The first 4-level interchange I designed was $30 million. The last one, before I retired, was $300 million. So things have gone up. That would be millions of dollars that the city or the county doesn't have.
What about, well, another ignorant question here. You hear a lot about Build Back Better from President Biden.
Right.
That there's a lot of money for infrastructure.
Right.
Is that some money that we could tap into?
The county and the city both are getting some of that money.
They are already.
Yeah.
Is it in the 100 millions?
No,
Okay, not even close.
no. It's
So that's not an option.
a couple of handfuls.
A couple of handfuls. All right. So what's the solution, Mr. Kite?
What
the
does right
solution?
look like?
Yeah.
What we need to do, the city and the county need to sit down together and mutually plan for future development. Development, people, growth are going to come here. They're projecting in another 20 or 30 years, 50,000 people.
Doubling it. Well, and we already have bonds, and we know we're going to build more high schools.
And there's going to be more bonds coming.
So this group of people, I guess, or others that, like myself, that don't want any more expansion, I guess it's unrealistic. We've got to just kind of embrace this and
It's going to happen.
Okay, so
Or you can move.
that's true. Thank you. I've been told that a lot before. So why don't you just leave?
And we did that. We moved we weren't in Bernie, we were on the edge of Bernie on San Antonio Avenue. We moved out.
Wait, that was the edge of Bernie on San Antonio Avenue?
That was the edge.
The city limits stopped at School Street
Oh my goodness.
at that time.
Wow.
That's a change.
So we were in the county. Well, we moved up to the highest hill north of Bernie. We had all the privacy in the world.
And I like that he says the city and the county need to come together because we got to give ourselves a pat on the back, John, because we just had Ty Willison and Chad Carpenter.
We know
on
it's
here.
possible.
And we know it's possible. And they sat across the table, and we knew that that was going to be a little tense. We didn't know where it was going to go because there was a disagreement on how to approach this. But at the end, we had a very good outcome. I think both of them agreed that they need to
Absolutely.
communicate closer and work closer together.
And it seems to me that in order for that to happen, let's assume that we can get everybody together. It needs to be more handled like a focus group, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's not like you put everybody together, lock the doors for 8 hours, and
It's
they
not
come
like
out
a
with a
cage
plan.
match. It's more
Right.
We got to work together. We got to.
Right.
Well, I think first step is we have to accept that growth is coming. So let's stop fighting about it, right? And we're
It
not
doesn't
gonna
do
stop
anybody
it.
any good. All it does is make sausage and spend money and resources we don't
Right.
have.
So we're not going to stop it. Sounds like
Right.
So we might as well work together. How to make. So again, what's the solution, Mr. Kite?
The solution is that both the city and county, they've got to work together, but they've also got to get engaged with TxDOT, the MPO, other federal and state agencies for funding.
And nobody's going to give any funding until they can provide a solid plan.
They've got to provide a plan
Makes sense.
that the community agrees with, that accepts.
So we're
TxDOT, okay, the other thing is, and I keep reminding these people, all the main streets in Bernie are TxDOT streets.
Right.
Okay. It's the same streets that when we moved up here 50 years ago, we had. Bernie has done nothing on their own to provide for their own mobility. Now, the new subdivisions, with the Thoroughfare plan going through them, they're building the Thoroughfare. That's where they're coming from. The city's not doing it. The developers are doing it. So these people are wanting to stop the city from having a Thoroughfare plan. In other words, a long-range mobility plan with the idea that, hey, we can stop. It'll be just like it used to be.
And most of the people that are, and I'm making an assumption, most of the people in the group won't be around if and when that ever would come to fruition.
I feel attacked. yeah.
Either.
Well,
Yeah,
but I mean,
none of us will, probably.
it's a fact. So
We need to think about our kids and
kids and our
grandkids.
grandkids.
But if you can keep TxDOT out of here and MPO out of here and all, you're keeping the funds that are going to build
To come
the
in.
roads in the future.
We're hurting ourselves. We're
Right.
not getting
No,
money.
it's almost
In
like
other
shooting
words,
ourselves in the
what they're
foot.
trying to do is stop growth.
So, but there's 12. These 12 people that you talk about. Are there another? Is there another group? Another 12 people that are for it, or are there more people that are just not speaking up?
They're not speaking up.
Is it because they don't understand it?
The city on their master mobility plan they just did last year, 96% of the people that they asked to respond to the survey, 96 people said that traffic and congestion was the most important issue there. So they're assuming that the elected officials are going to watch out for their well-being.
I remember filling that or looking at that survey when it came out.
Yeah. So.
And you say 96% of the people
96%
supported it.
Supported doing something about traffic problems and congestion.
Well, let's see what our viewers think. This is. An
I'd love to
opportunity.
hear their comments.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the comments from the viewers, whether you you agree that we need to stop this growth or how, if there isn't a possibility, or do you agree that growth is coming and we need to embrace it and work together and come up with ideas, and also more importantly, come up with money. And the only way to come up with money is by having a plan, which it doesn't sound like we have one yet.
And so,
we're spinning our wheels.
Combination of money from other governmental agencies.
Yes.
Plus, I assume there would be bonds involved somewhere if and when a plan was put together.
What about our taxes? Is that going to impact our taxes?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's a bad word.
they could have bonds to build it.
No,
But unless there's an agreement between the city and the county on something, you don't go to TxDOT or the MPO or anybody and say, we want this, unless you have community consent on what you're asking for. Right now, they're trying to prevent that. That's why they don't want TxDOT involved.
Well, and in fairness, we weren't able to get someone here to counter what you're saying, Mr. Kite, but we'll invite someone later to come and talk about that.
You need to do that.
Yes, I will. And we're trying to. But in fairness, I do recall, you keep mentioning that this group's about a dozen people. But in fairness to them, I attended a city council meeting last year, and there was a bunch of people up in arms. I'm going to say my guesstimate was about maybe 50 people attended that. They filled the room. And that they didn't want, they didn't want this. They didn't want Bernie to grow.
Because
how did they get all these 50 people? Where'd they come from? I mean, was it
I know where they come from.
Okay.
Through misinformation, misleading the people into thinking the city's going to take your land or they're going to do something else.
So it's like getting a mob together and telling them
In fact,
the boogeyman's coming, huh?
the little thing I say is, you need to remember this, that social media has become the killing fields of truth. The little thing I say is, you need to remember this, that social media has become the killing fields of truth.
Love that.
That's true.
And we talk about that quite often.
And I often have fun with it. I got to admit, on my personal page, I have fun with it. It to me, it's like a psychological experiment. Sometimes I'll put something out there to see how people react. And it's funny, some people take
it's a litmus test.
It's a litmus test. Some people get all bent out of shape over something. And sometimes I'll use a little sarcastic humor. And a lot of my friends do that too. But it's funny how misinformation can spread quickly.
Absolutely.
Or stir up emotions.
And Robert and Mr. Kite, to your point, I think in today's society, the root problem is that we've lost the nuclear family, and we have both members of a household are working. Kids are taking up so much more of our time with all their sports and their activities, and moms can't get back and forth to pick up their kids in time because we don't have, proper transportation plan in
but I
place.
think we've also lost the ability to disagree amicably, and this is why I'm real proud of what we're doing here down with Texas Examiners, that we can play the devil's advocate. We can bring people in with different perspectives and do it respectfully without calling names. I don't think we've called you any names today, Mr. Kite. And I think that's what I think is missing. And maybe because we're not teaching our kids
but
how
my
to
point to that was
communicate.
right. My point to that was that nobody has the time to sit there and do the research on their own because they don't care. They're so focused on handling just surviving to the next day
True.
that they take what they read from one person that they may have a little bit of respect for whatever reason, and they take it and they run with it and they perpetuate it, and that's why we exist.
Well, and psychologists, there's studies about this, and I've spoken to actually like Dr. Duder, who's a psychiatrist, a phenomenal person, has been on our show, and she's told me, and I've read this, that using fear is more effective than using facts.
Wow.
That I could get more people to do something by scaring them than by giving them factual information.
Because it catches their attention for that
That's
brief
my whole
moment.
point here.
Yes, it's become the killing
They're
field.
misleading the public with, some of them are half-truths. In fact, one of the persons I don't know if you've done her, but she used to hand out these little pamphlets. And I asked her, I said, is what you're handing out, is it true? Is it factual? Oh, yeah. Well, no, it wasn't. It was totally wrong. And that's what's happening. People, and I've talked to a lot of these people who live in the subdivision. They're all bent out of shape. They can't get their kids to school. Within it takes an hour. Well, that's ridiculous. It's not but a couple of miles.
It's like Washington, D.C. almost. It's becoming like that, yes.
Yeah. So they're assuming that the elected officials are looking out for their good. Well, if they're not, and you're wanting to increase congestion, you want to gridlock the place to stop development, well then, and don't take this wrong, but the good schools we have are part of our problem. They're
Granted.
causing people to come here. It's great.
True.
The area, the rural area is great. But the school is doing a good job at looking to the future.
True.
Finding places to build new schools and stuff.
Right.
But that's part of the problem. We got good schools. We don't want to go backwards on that. But we need to go forward and planning how do you get people around? What's their mobility? And if you take the city's ability to not have a thoroughfare plan, in other words, a planned network.
We're just choking ourselves. Sounds like, right? That's what you're
You
trying
aren't
to say.
choking yourselves, you're choking the community. And if you can prevent the city from having planning to do that, they've met their goal.
That's very impactful, and I think that's a good point to talk to our viewers here. That we had these county commissioners, city councilmen here recently, because we want more people to get involved, and we provided you with 2 individuals, and there's more. Your city councilman, your county commissioner are your voice. They are the closest people you can reach. You don't have to go through a staff. But you need to speak to them, because if it is like Mr. Kite says, if there's just a small group that is talking to these elected officials, that's what they're going to follow.
Right, because that's all they're hearing.
In fairness to the elected
Squeaky
official.
wheel.
Right. So more of you need to speak up, whether you're in support of this group or not. Maybe you are on that side.
Right.
But you need to get involved. And by getting involved, I don't mean necessarily going to all the county commissioner meetings or city council meetings. By all means do, but it's a simple email, it's a simple phone call, and these commissioners and city councilmen read them. It's not like writing to the president.
No.
Let them know what you want for Bernie, and they need to hear. If they don't hear, then someone else is going to determine the future for you and for our grandkids and children.
In the military, Robert, we had weapon systems, and we would label them as fire and forget. You point, shoot, and you can turn to go do something different. And it seems to me a lot of our constituents have adopted that line of thought when it comes to the election process and the people that they hire to represent them. They said the right things. I liked, their personalities. I think they're going to be great. They're in there. I trust them to do the right thing. And then they just walk off and forget that they are responsible for holding their elected officials accountable. And that's okay, folks, because we'll be here to help you do that.
That's right. And we try to hold them accountable. We invite some of these elected officials on the show. Those who don't want to come on, that should tell you something.
Right.
Those that are willing to come on and take the shots, that should tell you something also. But they may not have to respond to us, but they definitely have to respond to you. So if you write to them or call them and they're not responding to you, definitely let us know, because they definitely work for you. And let's remind these elected officials who they work for.
Wow.
And again, that's why this election is so important. Precinct 1 is the only commissioner running, but
Do you think that precinct can make or break us if we vote?
only about 50% of the constituents in Precinct 1 are city dwellers. Okay, if the Commissioner's Court is wanting to have an interlocal agreement that tries to prevent the city from doing what they're supposed to do, plan for the future, then you're not helping yourself. You're jumping from the frying pan into the fire.
Sounds to me like we'd have another 2 years of a stalemate until the next election cycle came back around.
Right.
I don't know if we have 2 years to wait.
Depending what's happened in this election.
So this election is critical.
But this election,
County commissioner election.
you're going to get a 3-2 vote.
Folks, if you're in Precinct 1, highly, strongly encourage you to please go out and vote. And though early voting does start on Tuesday morning, be aware that there is a candidate forum on Tuesday evening, 6:30 p.m. at the Bernie High School auditorium, where all candidates that are on the Republican ballot will be present. We don't know if we're going to be able to ask questions from the audience, but we will get to hear from all candidates, even if they're unopposed, about their policies and what they see for the future of Kendall County and Bernie.
Make it out there. It's at the high school. Bernie High School.
Absolutely. And if you can't make it out there, folks, we will have a live stream of the event. And if there is an opportunity to ask questions, please throw those questions into the chat room. And if we have an opportunity, we'll present those questions to the candidates on your behalf. But most important, I'd like to leave these folks with the thought. If you don't go vote, if you're in Precinct 1 and you don't go vote, you can't come back later and start complaining and pointing fingers, because this is your opportunity to show that your vote does count.
It sounds pretty serious now. I didn't realize that,
I did not
how
either.
serious it is that this election that's coming up could really have a major impact on the future of Bernie, whether where it's going. And so please, definitely, whichever way, we're not telling you which way to vote. We're just telling you definitely need to get out there. And if you're not well informed, contact these people that are running. Contact Commissioner Bergman, contact Ms. McCall, ask them what their plans for the future of Bernie and Kendall County are.
Absolutely. If they're not able to address your concerns in a public open forum, that doesn't mean that you can't burn their phone lines up.
That's right.
And ask them those questions.
We
And
do that.
We do. And we've received commitments from the elected officials that
Right.
we've had on the show that they'll answer the phone. And if they don't, they're going to call you back.
That's right.
You will get an answer from these folks. But if you don't communicate the will of the people to the people that you've elected to represent you, they're going to go with the loudest voice.
There you go.
So,
Well, John, I think we've had another excellent show. I'd like to give Mr. Kite an opportunity to have some last parting words. Mr. Kite, thank you again for making the time. You don't have any financial gain from this. You're retired. You're not running for office.
No, I'm not running.
And so,
No, I get nothing out of this.
well, but I appreciate
Except
you.
hopefully the assurance that the people would look and see who's running, what is their campaign. I mean, because some of them, they have, a big circle with an X through it about the Gateway study. Well, it's dead. It's gone.
it's kind of like a waste of
They
paper.
need to stop beating the horse. It's dead.
Right.
And in the most recent transportation study, there was no big loops proposed.
So the loop is just
It's something in their mind
scary word.
they don't want, and they're using it to stir. Like back in 2018, when this study was hot, they tried basically the group again. They tried to get 5,000 signatures. They got 3,000, 4,000, something like that. But I noticed that one of the commissioners here, she's already said that they had 29,000 petitions. There's not 29,000 voters in the county.
I
haven't heard that one.
I haven't
we
heard
need to
that
look
one.
into that
I'm trying to do the math on that, and I don't even think we have that kind of a turnout
No, I wish we could get that many
for
people.
an election.
The little thing I say is, you need to remember this, that social media has become the killing fields of truth.
Well, we appreciate you, Mr. Kite. Thank you for being a part of the community and for all you've done in public office and in the private sector. Again, we hopefully will have you back again later. We're going to try to get some other folks here who may have a difference of opinion of Mr. Kite's views or suggestions. And if you feel one way or another, please email us here at the Texas Examiner.
Info at thetexasexaminer.com. If you don't want to email us because you're right in the middle, you've got your phone in front of you and you have our page pulled up, send us a message. Hit that like button on YouTube, subscribe so you get notified when we do new episodes. And folks, the more you engage with us, the better that we can be in our quest to work for you.
Yeah, and we'll be live at Bernie High School this coming Tuesday.
Absolutely.
We'll be live streaming, and so look for us. I'm Robert Sines with the Texas Examiner, and this is my co-host, John Tipton. Thanks again, John, for a great show.
Same to you, Robert. Mr. Kite, we hope you have a blessed rest of your day, and thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.
Folks, have a great day. We've given you a lot to chew on. Again, go out and vote. Thank you very much.